Welcome back, Federalists versus Anti-Federalists. Alright, so the Anti-Federalists, these are the people who opposed the new Constitution. They believed in states' rights. They did not want a stronger central government for some reasons that we will shortly discuss. Alright, so what were some of their fears? Anti-Federalists feared that the national government would restrict personal liberty. They're like, alright, if we make this government too strong, it's going to take freedom away from the people. They feared that the national government would take over state powers, things that formerly states had been able to do, the national government would now do. They feared that Congress, now given the power to tax, that they would tax heavily. They feared that the Supreme Court would overrule state courts. And they finally feared that the president would head a large standing army. Instead of having a militia or just raising an army in times of war, that we would just always have an army, and that would make it impossible to get rid of the government if we didn't like it. Turns out that their fears were pretty rational because most, if not all, of these things have happened. Obviously, the third one's subjective, so whether we're taxed heavily or not, but they would definitely say that we are taxed heavily today. The first one, our personal liberties have certainly been restricted. The question would be whether they have been unnecessarily restricted or not, but they had good fears, it would appear. So what do they want? So first of all, they didn't want the new Constitution, but when they realized they were going to lose that battle, they're like, all right, at least let's get a Bill of Rights added into that. Let's add some restrictions to the government's power, and let's eliminate Congress's ability to tax. Well, they got 1 out of 3. We did get a Bill of Rights because of the Anti-Federalists, but we did not add more restrictions on federal power, nor did we eliminate Congress's ability to tax. Alright, so Brutus number 1, there's a video on this paper in more detail as well. Main idea. This is a paper that was written by the Anti-Federalists. It emphasized the benefits of having a small, decentralized republic, meaning state governments. So it's arguing for states' rights. It warned that people would lose liberty if we had a large centralized government. It does so very well. We're going to, obviously, like I said in that other video, you can look at it and get some more detail and some specific examples from Brutus number 1. But it makes a pretty compelling argument against a strong central government and in favor of smaller, decentralized republics like states. In the other corner, we have Federalists who supported the new Constitution and wanted a strong central government. So they wrote the Federalist Papers. These were newspaper articles written just like the Anti-Federalist Papers were written, or Brutus was the author of those. Publius is the author of the Federalist Papers. Really, it was Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. And it remains our best explanation of the framers' intent and their view of the Constitution. The one we're concerned with right now is Federalist number 10. Federalist number 10, this should hopefully make you think back to the pluralist form of democracy. It argues that a large republic is the best way to control factions. Factions are groups of people. He says you can't eliminate factions, but we can control them by having a large republic. It also argued that to delegate authority, or a large republic is the best way to delegate authority to elected representatives, and that it would disperse power between states and national government. So for all of these reasons, Madison and Federalist number 10 argues in favor of a large republic. Again, check out the video on Federalist number 10 for a lot more detail and specifics on this. Federalist 51, again, another video for it. It argued in favor of separation of powers, checks and balances. It argued that those two things would control and prevent the majority from abusing minority rights. So that's Federalist 51. The Bill of Rights refers to the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, which guaranteed individual rights from government abuse. So notice it is limiting the federal government by guaranteeing rights and things that they cannot take away from the people. Again, subscribe, hit that like button. This has been a La Money production.